I think we haven't yet gotten into this, the doing part of the yajna, where we start from yajna number 3, which is verse number 26 onwards. Before we move on to the verse 26, a couple of things that you need to know from this verse onwards. The couple of things that you need to know is we will be constantly using these two words from now on. The Ahuti and the kindling. In Yajna number 1 and 2, we talked about the ideal, the goal. Now from Yajna number 3 onwards, we'll start talking about we'll be repeatedly using these two words, Ahuti and the kindling. Ahuti means that which is offered into the fire. Kindling means the fire shooting up. Offering into the fire is symbolic of your activities. Fire shooting up is you are blessed by that activity. Again I repeat, Ahuti means, Ahuti is activities that keeps the fire alive. Fire is the ideal, the goal. Now the goal to be kept alive means the goal to be kept alive, and to reach the goal, constant continuous activity is required. Then only you can reach the goal. It is not just fixing the ideal alone. One is to fix the ideal, another is the constancy in activity till you reach that ideal. Constancy in activity till you get to the goal is what is known as Ahuti. Symbolically, the Ahuti is that which keeps the fire alive right through. Simply, the activity is that which keeps the ideal alive. It's not that I keep an ideal, I fix an ideal and start doing something different from that. Therefore, the first thing is the Ahuti, the first thing is the fire, the ideal. Then comes the constancy in activity that keeps the fire alive, which is what the Ahuti is. When you do that, what happens? The fire, when the Ahuti is continuously poured, it lights up as it were. The fire shoots up as it were. The fire lights up as it were, meaning the activity is blessing you. It's not the fire that is blessing you. The fire that is maintained by your activity as it were blesses you in return. What is it that you will be blessed with? Blessed with the attainment of the ideal. Whatever you have fixed as the goal, you will get there is the blessing. The greatest blessing that a human being needs is whatever ideals that you are working for, you should get that. That is blessing. Most of the human beings don't have that blessing. They work for something, they end up getting something else. They want something, they plan and do everything, but they actually end up getting something else. So here, blessing means the ideals are achieved. The goals are achieved. Is the prasad. To put it very simply, go from the basics. Karma means action. Karma means action. In the chronology of action, where we have seen any number of times, the vasana, the thought, the desire, the action. The vasana, thought, desire, action. Where is the thought coming from? The thought is coming from your vasanas. Where did the vasana come from? From your previous activity. So the previous activity, from this what do you understand? Your previous activity is the seed for your current activity. Your current activity is going to be the seed for your future activity. So this is the first thing. When people say, I am bound, I am bound, I am bound, law of karma, the chronology of action comes and says, your present is because of your past. In the way that you're going to continue now, you are creating your own future. This is the law of karma, the chronology of action. Vasana, thought, desire, action. Now comes the choice. We talk about the choice. And yajna karma is the choice that you make out of knowledge and understanding. Now, where does the choice come in? Vasana, thought, desire, action. Vasana, thought, desire, action. Vasana, thought, desire, action. Now, where is the choice coming in? The thought surfaces. The thought surfaces, there you have no choice. The thought surfacing is not of your choice in the present, because it has been created by your own past. The thought surfacing is not of your choice. Now connect to verse number 62-63. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangasteshu upajayate. The first thought happens by itself, as it were. See, when we say happens by itself, don't take it 100%. Don't take it literally. It happens helplessly because of the force that you gave it in the past. So the thought surfacing is not under the thought manifesting is not under your control, is not under your choice. To continue with it or direct it elsewhere is your choice. Again, I repeat, this is the very important thing to understand in to understand how yajna karma is practical. If you miss this point, it will look so theoretical, and that's all. We will not know exactly how it works in our practical life. So the thought surfacing is not your choice. It will happen by itself. When we say it happens by itself, responsibility, you understand, it is happening by itself, it is surfacing by itself, and the responsibility is yours. இது வரைக்கும் வந்ததுனாலே we have gathered a very good amount of jnanam artham. This itself is a very good amount of knowledge we have gained, right? Having now, that is why we say when thought surfaces, don't regret, don't feel bad about it and all. That's why we say when how to avoid the thoughts, how to prevent the thoughts. Thoughts are coming and I'm feeling very bad about it. Vedanta comes and says, why are you feeling bad about it? There is no need to feel bad. There is no need to regret, because it will helplessly, it will manifest as a thought. After the manifestation, you have a choice. What is the choice? The choice to go in that direction or redirect it. That redirecting is what yajna karma is all about. In the process of redirecting it, what are you doing? When you are redirecting it towards the higher cause, the higher purpose, you are no more feeding the past. That is how you overcome your. Since you are not feeding it anymore, you become free from those desires, vasanas, thoughts. This redirecting it out of choice is what is known as yajna karma. Yajna karma will not prevent the manifestation. We understand it clearly. Manifestation of thought will happen. Yajna karma is a direct, a conscious effort with which you can redirect it. That choice you have. And what helps you to exercise this choice? The jnanam, the knowledge helps you to exercise this choice. Therefore, the thoughts surface, jnanam takes over and directs the action. Jnana karma. Chapter number 4. The thought surfaces As soon as the thought surfaces, jnanam, knowledge takes over and knowledge directs it. So karma is no more directed by ragadvesha. Karma is directed by jnanam, knowledge. This actions directed by knowledge is what is called as yajna karma. This actions directed by knowledge is what is technically known as yajna karma. In those days when they were doing the yajna ritual, it was possible for them because all was taught earlier and then they sat and did the ritual. Now we have done enough rituals and we are starting to understand the knowledge now. So what is yajna karma? The jnanam taking over the jnanam deciding the direction. And how does jnanam decide the direction? Jnanam decides the direction taking the support from the scriptures, the shastras, the Vedanta. Now, a simple example. You want to reach a particular destination. Let us say you want to go to Bangalore. Let us say you want to go to, the destination is fixed by you. And you travel and you travel on the destination is fixed by you and you travel on and you travel on the road. When you are traveling on the road, you are bound by rules and regulations. The road doesn't tell you where you need to go. Where you need to go is fixed by you. The road doesn't say go to Calcutta, go to Bangalore. It doesn't say that. Where you need to go is fixed by you. Though where you need to go is fixed by you, your movement is guided by rules and regulations. One way you should not go. When ambulance comes, you have to give the path. You should not overtake by left, blind turns. That they keep all this. No? Now, this thought surfacing. Now, carefully follow. This thought surfacing is the direction you fix. Now, just because you have fixed the direction, just because you have fixed the destination, just because you have fixed the destination, you can't do whatever you want. My goal, sir, I will do whatever I want. I have fixed the destination to go to Bangalore. Therefore, I will do what I want. Is ignorant way of functioning. What is knowledge here? Destination is fixed by you, but your travel is guided by rules and regulations. And if you follow these rules and regulations, you will reach your destination safely. So rules and regulations are for what? For you to reach the destination correctly. This rules and regulations is what the Shastras is all about. These rules and regulations is what the Shastras is all about. If you understand it like that, Shastram becomes very, Vedantic knowledge becomes very, very purposeful, meaningful. That's why I always say Vedanta doesn't fix the direction for you, you fix your direction. But then that is bound by rules and regulations. Yajna karma is, now the goal is fixed. Why I am giving all this intro is, now the goal is fixed means you want to go to Bangalore is, you have fixed. You want to go to Bangalore, you have fixed. Yeah. Now you start driving. When you start driving, immediately you are bound by rules and Immediately, you are bound by rules and regulations. You may like them, you may not like them. It may be pleasant, it may be unpleasant. It may be understandable, it may be non-understandable. But nevertheless, you need to follow those rules. Those set of rules that you need to follow to reach your destination safely is what Shastra is all about. That is what Yajna Karma is all about. So in Yajna Karma, the rules and regulations are laid down very clearly so that you can reach your destination. If you do not follow the rules and regulations, the signpost and all that clearly, what will happen? Yeah. Instead of going to Bangalore, you will end up in, I don't know where you will end up. Yeah. As you go, the signpost will say, take left to Bangalore. Your point is, who are you to say that? It is my destination. It is my goal. I know what to do. Vedanta says, please go ahead. And where will you end up? You will end up elsewhere. Sometimes you may end up in the right destination, but you will be so battered and bruised. You will be so bad, you will be so bruised. This battering and bruising before reaching the destination is what is known as the stress and anxiety. By the time you are so battered and bruised, you get to the destination, you are so fatigued by the ride itself that reaching the destination is of no value or no consequence. இவ்வளோ கஷ்டப்பட்டு வந்தனா you will say. Because you are, why? Because right through you are not following the right through. If you follow the rules, you reach, not only you reach the destination, you will reach the destination safely. Now, one thing is, there is a rules and regulation and the mind rebels against it. The moment you say there are rules and regulations, the first instinct of the mind is to rebel against it. That is why anything forced is never forceful. Because the moment you say this is dharma, this is the rules and regulations, you need to drive this way only. Immediate tendency of mind is to rebel. Jnanam comes and says, your rebellion is of no meaning. Because this rebellion is self-destructive. This is what knowledge teaches. You rebelling is of no meaning because you rebelling is going to be destructive to your own self. What is the destruction? Now connect. Your present is because you didn't do all this rightly in the past. Your present day is because you didn't do all this rightly in the past. You didn't do all this rightly in the past means today you are a victim of the bundle of raga, dvesha, likes and dislikes. You are bound. Now, if you do not follow this dharma, these rules and regulations, this is what you will continue into. This is what you will continue into your future also. Knowledge exposes this. Knowledge explains this. The mind cooperates. To what does it cooperate? To what the mind starts cooperating now? The mind starts cooperating to follow the mind starts cooperating to follow the rules and regulations. Are you okay till now? Then the mind will come and ask, rules and regulations is okay for others, sir, but I am slightly a better person, I am slightly a different person. What are the exemptions for me? It will immediately come and ask. it will immediately come and ask, what are rules and regulations? Let others follow. What are my exemptions? Your exemptions are dependent upon the goal that you are pursuing. If you are pursuing the highest, you are exempted from few. If you are not pursuing the highest, exemptions you don't qualify for exemptions. If you want exemptions, what you need to do? Okay. Income tax rule and the exemption one, what you need to do? Tax reduction lane the coming one, what you need to do? 80G ki donate பண்ணனும் இல்லையா? When you do a charity, you are exempted. So exemptions is allowed only when you do. If you want freedom from these rules and regulations, what you need to do? You need to perform. You need to do charity. எவ்வளோ charity பண்றோமோ அவ்வளோ exemption. Only charity you do na. Only charity you do, you are fully exempted. அதுதான் யஜ்ஞ கர்மா. அதுதான் யஜ்ஞ. You fully do keep charity. You fully keep doing charity. You are completely exempted. Exempted from what? From the law of karma, from punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, from the anxiety, from the result orient. All this you will be exempted from. Start from yajna number 3 now. Now we have known the formula for exemption. Rules and regulations is to help you to get to the destination. But how long to continue to be bound like this? I want some freedom from the rules and regulations. Abdina, what you do? Start doing charity. More charity you do, more you do, more exemptions. Only that you are totally exempted. Therefore, the ideal the yajna number 1, the yajna number 2 determines that. Limited ideal or absolute ideal. And then Krishna says, in my recommendation, work for the absolute ideal. Why? Because how much ever you work for the limited ideal, again and again and again, you will be bound by this helplessness. Now, what is the helplessness that you are bound by, that you will be bound by? What is helplessness that you will be bound by? The helplessness that each and every human being is bound by is thoughts, desires surfacing all by itself. Thoughts and desires surfacing all by itself, and we are not knowing how to, and we do not know how to be free from that. If you want freedom from that, perform yajna karma. And what is yajna karma means? Converting all activities into worship. Yajna karma means converting all activities into worship. When all activities are converted into worship, what happens? The existing helplessness goes out. In future, you will be free. The existing helplessness starts reducing. In future, you will be free. This is how yajna karma is the roadmap for moksha, liberation. This is how yajna karma has set the path for this is how Yajna Karma has set the path for moksha, liberation. Through activities, you feed the ideal. Activities, you have no choice. Action is the insignia of life. You have no freedom from doing. As long as you are alive, action is, the law of action says, action is the insignia of life. You have no escape from doing. Now, what is the doing? We are going to start now. What is the doing? We are going to start. You have no escape from doing. This doing, if guided by knowledge, you are all right. This doing, if this doing is guided by knowledge, you are all right. Are you okay till now? What is this doing? What is this doing that constantly happens from birth to death? As he says, cradle to graveyard. What is this doing that happens? The three things of receipt, reaction, response. The 3 R of life. What in Vedanta treatise also he calls as the 3 R's of life. The 3 R means receipt, reaction, response. Since these 3 is continuously happening, and all these 3 has to be bound by, all these 3 are has to be made, all these 3 you need to make them follow some rules and regulations. If you do not make them follow some rules and regulations, it is known as impulsive. You are doing that which you like, you don't do that which you don't. Now you are being impulsive. Now what do? You direct them through some rules and regulations. This set of rules and regulations is what is known as knowledge. Another word for this knowledge is dharma. You can call it jnanam, you can call it dharma. That's why in Vedanta we use jnanam and dharma synonymously. Dharma and jnana is not different. Dharma and jnanam is one and the same. Dharma means that which should ideally guide your activities. And what are the activities? The activities of receipt, reaction, and response. Having said this, from now on, we will discuss about the receipt, reaction, response as in yajna number 3 to yajna number 12. Yajna number 1 and 2 is fixation of the ideal. From yajna number 3 to yajna number 12 determines how do you manage the receipt, reaction, and the response part. Now when you are handling these 3, what are you handling? From the helplessness. What is the helplessness that you are free from? The thoughts manifesting by itself, hijacking your personality and driving you to contact, and then justifying that contact, justifying that action. A person who is so caught up in smoking. Smoking causes cancer. But sir, but then Ramana Maharshi got cancer. No, what smoking he did? There are people who never smoked also got cancer. Therefore, you can continue to. Now the desire has hijacked the knowledge to convince. So the desire has hijacked the intellect To justify what? To justify you violating the rules. You justifying violating the rules. The common justification that people do is, sir, in the Kalkalallam, when everybody around us is bad, we should also be bad only, no? Let everyone become good, then I will also become good. Because if one person being good and rest are all being bad, what is the use? If you are good, it is good for you. Where is the difficulty? You're able to follow the difference. Therefore, this is how the yajna number 3 will move. From yajna number 3, we will move like this. Before I go on to, I can see some clarifications. I will see if those clarifications are relevant to what we are discussing. I will take it up. If not, I will discuss it at the end. Because these yajnas are a continuity. I don't want to take up tangential clarifications and break the break the flow. So I'll just see the clarifications. Prasanna. Most of the people are caught up in the world of materialism and sensuality. How started and deserve the knowledge of Vedanta? To deserve the knowledge of Vedanta, there has to be a seeking. They should seek the knowledge. As long as they don't seek the knowledge, even if the knowledge is available right at their doorstep, they will still not be able to access it. So, the problem here is not lack of knowledge. The problem here is the one who is not able to access it. The person is not able to access it is because there's no seeking. If they are not seeking, this means they are seeking something elsewhere. It means they are seeking something elsewhere. The knocks and shocks, the pain and the anxiety and the stress will make them seek something higher, and then they deserve to seek the knowledge. Now, this is not a rule. Every human being at birth has this choice to gain this knowledge. Only when we miss it and get so involved in the worldly activities and all that, we have to go through the process of coming back through pain and suffering. But realistically speaking, a human being is not designed to come to this knowledge through pain and suffering. Otherwise, it looks like as though everybody must go through pain and suffering only to come to this knowledge. No. This is not the reality. The reality is every human being is designed to get this knowledge at birth. When I say at birth means the birth, what we call as the second birth, the birth of the intellect. Symbolically, the Upanayanam ceremony. That possibility is there in every single human being. At that point of time, at the age of 8, 9, when we can gain this knowledge, we start gaining other knowledges. What are the other knowledges? The worldly knowledges, materialistic knowledge. And what is the worldly knowledge? What does the worldly knowledge teach you? Worldly knowledge teaches you only 3 things. How to manipulate, how to exploit, how to be cunning. That's all. Worldly knowledges, ultimately, they teach you how to manipulate, how to exploit, how to be cunning. That's all it teaches you. And when you suffer the consequences of this education, what is the consequences of these 3? Manipulation, exploitation, cunningness. What is the consequences of these 3? COVID-19. All the other species are happily roaming around. only one species is stuck inside. No. In all other calamities, collectively all species suffer. At least in the lockdown, in the difference of you should have noticed. Did you notice this difference? In a natural calamity like rain, earthquake, this, everything will suffer. Even if there is a fire, everything will collapse. Now, it is such a wonderful thing. When I say wonderful thing, means for thinking. What is it? Except one species, all other species are happily, blissfully continuing. Why? Because the law of karma. What is the law of karma? All the worldly knowledges that resulted in excessive manipulation, cunningness, exploitation. Nature has said what? I am more powerful than you, all of you sit inside. You have everything, but you can't. You have everything, but you can't. Now, this is, now at this point of time when we learn something through, see, I'm not an expert on COVID-19. I really don't know anything about that. I'm just using this as an example to communicate the exploitation, cunningness, manipulation will result in a suffering. And that suffering possibility is sometimes through suffering, a few wake up. To answer the question directly, how to deserve the knowledge of Vedanta? Human birth itself means you deserve this knowledge. There is no special qualification that is required. The very fact that we have got this human life itself means all human beings are qualified for this knowledge. A few access it, the most of them, even though they have it, they don't access it because they are chasing something else. Consequences of that chasing can drive them to seek this. This is answering Prasanna's clarification. How to get started? As long as a human being, the nature has given you the gift to start. Because the birth itself, this intellect is there, the capacity to gain knowledge is there, the capacity to understand is there. Now, so that itself means all human beings can get started. All human beings at birth itself deserve this knowledge. So there is no special reservation. Only why, even though everybody is qualified, why are they not getting it is because though you are qualified, though it is available all the time, you need to seek it. Availability is there, but you need to seek it. Just as the horse can be taken to the water. You can't make the horse drink the water. Similarly, the availability of knowledge is there for every human being. There is no discrimination, there is no distinction. Everybody, all human beings, they deserve. And then why 99.9% don't get it? Because they are not seeking this. And if we say they are not seeking this, means they are seeking something else. The consequences of that seeking may drive them into this. This is as far as that. Now, Shweta, what to do when the mind is fixed on a single point desire, remains unfulfilled for a long time? The mind forgets for some time, but again, strong desire surfaces unknowingly from time to time, and we are caught unawares. This is the typical problem of ignorance. Shweta, this is the typical problem of ignorance. The mind forgets for some time because the mind forgets for some time. What does the mind forget? The mind temporarily forgets the other desires for some time because you are pursuing one desire. When you are pursuing one powerful desire, temporarily the other desires appear to be quietened down. Please understand, it didn't get eradicated. It was just hiding because you are pursuing something more powerful. After a while, the other desire starts slowly expressing and manifesting. Now, what to do in order to check the mind? The reference point is required. And that reference point is the ideal, the goal. If I have to check the mind, I need a reference point. That reference point is the ideal, the goal, which is what the first two yajnas are. Yajna number 1 and yajna number 2. You are caught unawares. You are right. That's how I started by saying. This is how I started. You are caught unaware. When I say you are caught unaware means it surfaces all by itself and you have no say on it. You have no control over it. It just surfaces by itself. When it has surfaced, you have a choice to continue with it or redirect it. The third thing you should not do, suppression you should not do. The suppression part you should not do. See, when it surfaces, I can continue with it, or I can suppress it, or I can redirect it. First thing that you should be very careful is not to suppress. Abada, ipada sir or satisfaction. Therefore, I will continue to pursue my Rajvel. This is not an excuse to continue to do what you are doing. Suppression panna kudadilla sir. Therefore, I will continue to do what I am doing. You have to redirect it. So ideal is the ideal that brings that awareness. How to bring that awareness? It is the ideal that will help you to bring this awareness. That is why in Vedanta, the first step we spend a lot of time explaining the importance of the ideal, because it is the ideal that can make you aware. Higher the ideal, awareness will be faster. The highest ideal, you will be aware right through. The higher the ideal, again I repeat, the higher the ideal, your awareness will be faster. And when you are working for the highest ideal, you will be aware. Your awareness will be right through 24/7. This is how the mind that is caught unaware, you catch. Ideal is very, very important. Asha has raised her hand. Oh, adella vera pandrangala. We'll unmute her. Please pannunga. No. Oh, no, she didn't raise her hand up. Okay.
I didn't raise my hand. Sorry, I just.
Oh, okay.
Gesture.
Oh, okay. Oh, gesture. Right. Okay. Is it okay, Shweta? Now, the activity we have said as the 3. What are the activities? The activities is of 3. Receipt, reaction, and response. The receipt, the reaction, the response. If you have to manage your activity means you should know how to manage your receipt, reaction, and response. Action, this is to understand worship, this is very important. Receipt means the receipt of stimuli from the external world. The receipt of stimuli from the external world. Reaction means the stimuli interacts with your inner personality. Response means what you choose to offer back. What you choose to offer back is the response. So, receipt, reaction, response. The world, the stimuli, the object and beings enter you. When we say the objects and beings enter you, they don't enter you through the jnana indriyas, through the organs of perception, they enter you. They enter you. Again, I repeat. Very, very important is to understand this. This is very, very important to understand this. The world gives you stimuli, and the stimuli enters you through the organs of perception called jnana indriyas. And these perceptions end in the mind. Where the perceptions end, the perceptions doesn't end as soon as the eyes see it. The perception ends only when the mind, only when the registration happens in the mind. For example, you are reading a book. You are so engrossed in reading that book. The person next to you call your name 10 times, you don't hear it. Why? That perception of sound didn't happen. The perception of sound didn't happen to you, even though the sound was there. The sound was there, the ears was there, still the registration of sound didn't happen. Why? Because the mind is occupied elsewhere. Are you able to follow? So, the world enters you through the organs of perception, and it gets registered in the mind. When it gets registered in the mind, the perception is over. Now, this perception starts interacting with that which is already existing in the mind. What is it that is already existing in the mind? What is it that is already existing in the mind? The vasanas, the likes and dislikes. So, these stimuli dies in the mind, interacts with that likes and dislikes. There is a reaction that happens, like a chemical reaction. There is a reaction that happens. This is what is known as the second R, reaction. So, the receipt, the reaction. Now, for the reaction to happen, the reaction is happening now because something is already, it is not an empty test tube. You are not pouring something into an empty test tube. If you are pouring something into an empty test tube, there will not be any reaction. But then there is something in that already. What is in that already? In the mind. What is in the mind already? What is in the mind already? You can say vasana, you can say desire, you can say ragadvesha. Krishna will use the word ragadvesha because that is something that it is so easy to understand how reaction happens instantly. Vasana, desire, it's all correct. But then the most appropriate word, that Krishna uses is Raga Dvesha. This bunch that is existing in the mind already, from where did it come? From where did it come? It came from your own past. Something you didn't do right in the past, as a result of which today you are left with this bunch. Bunch naga edo kammiya irukra madiri irukku illaya. Bunch means as though a small bunch is there. Yeah. It's not that small bunch. The stimuli, when it enters, that the stimuli is registered in the mind, instantaneously what happens is it starts reacting with what is in the mind already. What is in the mind already? A bunch of Raga Dvesha. So what is this Raga Dvesha means? Likes and dislikes. So the stimuli interacts with likes and dislikes. And then what happens? Responses are sent back. The responses are sent back through the organs of action. So the organs of perception, mind, organs of action. Idhula mukkyamanadu we didn't discuss. The most important thing we didn't discuss. What is the most important? What is the most important? Idhula organs of perception we discussed, the mind we discussed, responses through the organs of action we said. What is missed in this? The buddhi, the intellect. Where is that now? Where is that, and what does it do? Absence of that, what happens? Presence of it, what happens? Are you able to follow till now? The absence of it, what happens? The presence of it, what happens? Absence of it, what happens? Impulsive responses, thereby resulting in further development of likes and dislikes. In the absence of it, impulsive responses, further development of likes and dislikes. That further developments of likes and dislikes, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. That part of it we know already. We have seen that part already. Now, what does buddhi do now? What is the presence of intellect here? The intellect says the stimuli has entered, the stimuli has entered, the reaction is also happening, and there is an urge to, and there is an uncontrollable urge to respond. What intellect does? Shanti, it says first. It says Shanti. Don't be in a hurry to respond. Let me investigate and tell you. Let me investigate and tell you. And then after my investigation and me telling you, you respond accordingly. So the intellect directs the responses. The three transactions of life: receipt, reaction, response. Receipt, reaction, response. Are you okay till now? இதெல்லாம் வந்து வேதாந்தாவே கிடையாது. இதெல்லாம் Vedanta comes only when the enlivening factor, Brahman, God and all comes in. அதெல்லாம் இங்க வரவே இல்லை. இதுவே வேதாந்த மாதிரி இருந்தா what to do? Vedanta comes in only when the enlivening factor comes in, when God comes in, and that we have not even come to that till now. We are still discussing only the receipt, reaction and response. So the stimuli enters you, It registers in the mind and it reacts in the mind with that which is already, with what it has already. And then the reaction itself is so strong, so powerful that helplessly it will respond. First thing the intellect does is the appropriateness of responses is guided. First thing the intellect does is the appropriateness of response. What does appropriateness of response means? Remember Swamiji example. He gives his example. How beautiful is that example? See, right in the middle of the class, you are sitting in the same position for some time. There is a strain. There is a pain. Yeah, you want to. That pain. There is an urge to. That pain. There is an urge to stretch. Yeah, and when you stretch, you have to make a sound also on stretch, no? How will you stretch? Yeah, how will you stretch? Ellarim mute panniyachu. Adanal I have to make the sound also. Yeah. How will you make the stretch? Oh, and then you continue the class. Intellect says, hold this response. For this response is inappropriate now. So the intellect starts guiding the responses. And then through knowledge and understanding, it says, why did I react itself in the first place like this? First is appropriateness of the response. Carefully follow. One is the appropriateness of the response. Second is the appropriateness of the very reaction itself. The third thing is why, like a dustbin, put everything inside. Stimuli at the level of stimuli itself, I filter. Are you able to follow how it works? One thing is the appropriateness of the response. Second thing is why did I even react like this? Yeah. Somebody says you are a fool. Why did I react like this? I gave this example, no, my own example. Every Thursday it used to be so funny. இப்போ கோவிட்லாம் வந்து பூட்டி வச்சிட்டாங்க, அந்த ஃபன் எல்லாம் போச்சு இப்போ இல்லையா? ஜூம் கிளாஸ்ல வந்து ஏதோ சார்லி சாப்ளின் மூவி பாக்குற மாதிரி இருக்குது இல்லையா? ஃபார் மீ நத்திங், no enjoyment, no nothing. At least other times a lot of enjoyment. Every Thursday evening we used to have class in Chitra's house. So we have to go. I have to park the car on the road and walk about 70-80 meters to go to the house. It's a pathway. So children will be playing and all things they'll do. So I have to cross them and go. I tell you, such a wonderful thing. As I cross, the 4 kids there. I have 4 kids. 4 vayas, 5 vayas pasanga. So small kids. They are playing. Suddenly one boy, he thought he's talking softly to them. He didn't realize that he's talking loud. He thought he's talking softly. He told the other 3, சொன்னல்ல மொட்டை வருவார் இன்னைக்கு. He's saying, I told you no, this bald fellow will come today. மொட்டை வந்துட்டார் பாரு. Oh my God. I stood there. I looked at that fellow and I said, என்னடா சொன்ன? What did you say? The other 2 girls got so scary. They said, no uncle, nothing. I said, no, he said something. என்ன சொன்ன? He said that. I made him to say that again. Yeah. The stimuli has entered. What is the stimuli? That you are the Hmm. It reacts with the existing, it reacts with the corresponding likes and dislikes. What is the corresponding likes and dislikes? What is that is existing on the mind in the test tube already enna irukudhu? I am a great man, going to talk on Bhagavad Gita, going to resurrect and help the world. How to such a great person, how can such remark be passed? You know, what will happen? I will go and give one tight slap to the child. Yeah. Supposing I have done that, now what you should do? Next week, the Zoom class yarum varakudathu. Are you able to follow? Because the appropriateness of the response I can manage, but the appropriateness of the reaction is very difficult to understand. So intellect works on the appropriateness of the response, it works on the appropriateness of the reaction that happens inside. So it understands the cause for reaction. What is the cause for reaction? Now there can be two causes, carefully follow. Now the appropriateness for the reaction, now there can be two causes. What is the first cause for this reaction? The child calling me. The child calling me Motai is one cause. The second cause is something in me already. If that something in me already is not there, even if the stimuli enters, there will not be this reaction. Are you able to follow? In the mechanism புரிஞ்சாதா, the mechanism, because he is going to talk about sense control, self control and all that. If this mechanism is understood rightly, you will be able to follow what is happening. Now the cause for this reaction can be of two. What are the two causes? One is the boy, one is the boy. Another is something which is in the test tube already. Vedanta comes and says, ignorance comes and says, உள்ளுக்குள்ள இருக்கிற test tube, what is there inside the test tube and all, don't bother. Blame the stimuli for that. Blame the stimuli for that. Blame the stimuli, na correct the boy. Once the boy is corrected, from next time, from next Thursday I go, he will prostrate to me on the road itself. Yeah. Then, then I also say blessing and I go inside. Herein knowledge comes and says, the reaction is happening not because of the stimuli, the reaction is happening because of the material that you have in you already. What is the material that you have in you already? The likes and dislikes. So what you need to worry about? It's not enough to worry about the appropriateness of the response. Deeper than that is to worry about what is it that is reacting, what is it through which the stimuli is reacting. Likes and dislikes. The third thing is, where all you can manage, handle the stimuli also. But it will not bother about the stimuli that much a lot. Why it will not bother about the stimuli a lot? Because world means stimuli, and world will give you all sorts of stimuli. So to some extent, in a little way, you can manage the stimuli here and there. But the focus must be on what is உள்ளேந்து வர கெமிக்கலுக்கு பதிலா டெஸ்ட் டியூபை எம்டி பண்ணிடுங்க. they say. Don't worry about the stimuli that is going to enter you, because as long as you are alive, as long as you are active, you will be in the world, and world will continue to give you stimuli. It will continue to give. Some will be pleasant, some will be unpleasant. Some will be good, some will be bad. In the initial stages, to some extent, you can protect yourself from stimuli. Like in the Bhajagovindam, he said, Sassangatve Nissangatvam. Ensure that the stimuli that comes into you is also of a good quality. It means the intellect knows how to filter the stimuli. Now, the three things. Intellect plays its role in what? Intellect plays its role in the selection of the stimuli. Intellect plays its role in the reaction part, and the intellect plays its role in the response part. It the appropriateness of the stimuli, it takes care. The second thing is, what is it that it is reacting with? So if that stimuli enters, what is it that is inside with which it is going to interact? And then that interaction will produce an urgency, an urge to respond. Intellect directs the appropriateness of the response also. Now, if you observe, all religions gives you two practices, irrespective of the background or anything, irrespective of the textbook, background, culture, state, country, which part of the continent, which part of the world they are in. All religions have two practices in common. The two practices in common is fasting and maunam. All religions have these two practices. Have you ever observed it? They will have fasting as a discipline, and they will have maunam also as a discipline. Fasting means regulation of the stimuli. Fasting means regulation of the responses, the action. I said fasting and maunam. Fasting is relation to the stimuli, maunam in relation to the responses. Sorry, I made a mistake. Fasting in relation to the stimuli, because ahara, food is that entering you, no? That which is entering you is the stimuli. Maunam means the response, the talking. When you are managing these two, you are by yourself. When you are managing these two, you are by yourself. You can go inside of you and deal with this material inside. What is it that you are made of inside? Likes and what is it that you are? What is it that you have inside? The likes and dislikes. This is how Vedanta, religion, helps you to manage activities, manage life. For what? Why do you have to manage activities? Why do you have to manage life? For what all this needs to be done? Only when you manage all this, the goal can be achieved. The goals can be achieved only when you manage this. From yajna number 3, he is going to start. I'm not going to start yajna number 3 today. We'll be starting only the next week. But we'll be talking about the receipt, reaction, and response. Now, if you have to understand the receipt, reaction, response, I thought it is appropriate to explain the processes involved in receipt, reaction, and response. Once you know this, you know where all you can, once you know all this, you know where all you can control. And once you control, you reach the goal you reach the goal. This is how from yajna number 3 to yajna number 12 helps you to achieve whatever your ideal is, yajna number 1 or yajna number 2. Yajna number 1 and 2 is the goal, ideals. From yajna number 3 is directing all activities to get there. Now, if you have to direct all activities to get there, you need to know what is the activity that is happening in you. What is the activity that is happening in you? The receipt, the reaction, the response, the stimuli, reacting inside, and then consequently responding back. Krishna so beautifully in these 12 yajnas takes up all this and he's analyzing. So you find the first few yajnas talking about the receipt portion, another yajna talking about the reaction portion, and another set of yajnas talking about the response portion. So the first few yajnas talks about the, as I go along, I'll tell you where stimuli, where is it receipt, where is it reaction, where is it response, and all that I'll tell you when we go. So all these 12 yajnas is a cycle of this. Why we call this 12 yajnas as a cycle is because, you remember, I don't know, last week or the previous week I said, it is not 12 different yajnas over which you have a choice to choose. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. It's not that 12 different types, of the 12 different types you choose one. It's not like that. You need to do all this. Why? Because it is a cycle. Because it is a cycle. And what is that cycle implies? Why we call it as a cycle is because the cycle of receipt, reaction, response. Receipt, reaction, response is happening all the time. Therefore, you need to do all this to manage the entire cycle. When you are managing the entire cycle, all your activities turn into yajna karma, and when all your activities turn into yajna karma, you reach the absolute goal of moksha, liberation. Today was just இது வந்து இன்னைக்கு ஒரு philosophical session கிடையாது. இன்னைக்கு வந்து anatomical discussion இது. இதுல philosophy எல்லாம் எதுவுமே கிடையாது. What is it that is happening in you is what is explained. Having explained this, we go into the yajnas from next week. Before I conclude, there is a clarification. It's not a clarification, it's one lecture for me. Sri Ram. இது நல்லா இருக்குடா. Arvindan uncle, he started like that. Yeah. Hasn't worldly knowledge resulted in some good as well? For example, physics, chemistry, biology, all put together is what medicine is, has helped you manipulate the physical sciences for benefit. While I don't deny often that most people have ulterior motives even while learning these external sciences. So, with purity or with a honest ideal, if one approaches external knowledge, the manipulation of these sciences is beneficial. Hasn't it? அதான்டா பண்ணணும்னு சொல்றோம். We are saying that's what you need to. That's what we are saying. That's what you need to do. Pursue the world with the purity. Loka sangraha. So, is it right to say that all worldly knowledges results only in manipulation, exploitation, cunningness, all of which have a certain negative connotation? So, I completely agree that the ideal makes or breaks you even in this realm. But the difference, it seems, between the relative and the absolute ideal. The goal seems tangential in the relative world, while in seeking the absolute, it's not tangential. And one feels meandering through a path, even though goal is grand. So how do we get over this? Now, all that he's saying, to put it in a nutshell, is per se knowledge is of no per se, the worldly knowledges is not negative or positive. Please understand that. Huh? Sriram, per se are not positive or negative in nature. The ideal for which it is done makes it positive or negative, number one. Number two is, in that pursuit of the ideal, for me to pursue that ideal, the means that I'm adopting, no? There is a means that I am adopting to that ideal, and that means is very important for your inner state. Your mental state is decided by the attitude with which that action is done. The mental state is decided not by the activity per se or the intelligence per se. For what the intelligence, for what the knowledge is pursued. When I do that for a higher purpose, like he says, Loka Sangraha, for the welfare of a larger group, for the welfare of the larger group. Intellect, what it does is, it goes on thinking, I am working for the welfare of one group. When I am working for the welfare of one group, I should not interfere with the welfare of another group also. When I am working for the welfare of Indian, I can't sacrifice Pakistani for that. So, in all the relative ideals, what will happen? Logically, if you take it, in all the relative ideals, what will happen? Somewhere down the line, some will get sacrificed. That bounces back in the form of agitations. That bounces back in the form of agitations. That is why there are so many people who come and say, sir, நான் ஒரு எறும்புக்கு கூட துரோகம் பண்ணதில்லை sir. I don't even hurt an ant. But still, why it is happening? Still, why it is happening to me? Why it is happening to me? Vedanta explains why it is happening. Therefore, how to get over this? To get over this is an understanding. What is understanding? The understanding is of, when I am working for the welfare of one, for this welfare, what am I sacrificing? See, like, wonderful is this idea where nowadays people say, not tested on animals, no? When they say not tested on animals, it is worth buying that, because for my beauty, why should I have, for me to increase my beauty, why do I have to hurt the other species for that? Because they are not having this complex of beauty and ugly, no?
Right.
They are not having this complex of beauty and ugly. I am the one who is suffering by this complex of beauty and ugly. Because of the superior equipment given to me, I am going and interfering with them. I am testing on all of them, so that when it comes to me, I am safer. Are you able to follow? So it goes step by step. So our subtlety is increasing. Our subtlety is increasing. Then we say, why damage the environment? Okay, summer na it will be hot. அதுக்கோசரம் 24/7 ஏசி போட்டு ராதாகிருஷ்ணன் காது குத்திக்கோங்க இல்லையா? ஏன்னா அவர் தான் ஏசி மேன், அவர் தான் இல்லையா? அதுக்கோசரம் ஒரு 24/7 ஏசியில உட்கார்ந்துட்டு why warm up the environment? So I go, as I'm going inward and inward and inward, what happens is my identification has increased. So that identification determines what I should do and what I shouldn't do. Though I may have the technology, though I may have the expertise, though I may have all the machineries and everything, but what will guide is, what guides that is this. What is it? How much of it is, how much I am interested in my happiness and not cause harm to another. Then dharma. This is the definition of dharma fundamentally. It's okay to go for your happiness. Ensure that the other is not hurt. Like the same idea of some turn into vegan nowadays. The same idea. It is as the sensitivity increases. That is why when I started the Yajna Karma, in the Vedic times, the sensitivity was so high that when they went and cut the darba grass, they asked for forgiveness from that grass. And when they cut that darba grass, they will not cut and keep for the next 3 years stock. That which is bare essential, that which is bare minimum, they take. And when they do that, there is a sensitivity in them. So that sensitivity, they ask for. In fact, the Yajurveda starts with asking for forgiveness from the grass. Before they enter the river to bathe, they touch and worship the river, saying what? I'm going to pollute you. Forgive me for. So when this awareness goes very high, what happens? You become utterly dharmic. You become completely dharmic. To reach to that height, intellect is that the knowledge of the Shastras, the knowledge of Vedanta is that which helps us to come to this sensitivity. That's why even when they take the vegetable, they will wait for the vegetable to fall. They will wait for it to ripe. Ripe means it is no more useful to that plant, tree itself. It's no more useful to the tree itself. Before milking the cow, that's why there is a dharma for milking the cow. Before they milk the cow, there's the two dharma they have to follow. First is the calf will go and drink. Second is, of the 4 udders they have, one will not be touched at all. Because when the human touch doesn't go there, calf can drink maximum from that. So even when they were extracting milk from the cow, they ensured that certain things are done. So what they did, to conclude, to cut a long story, they knew the boundary. The sensitivity creator, the sensitivity brought about this knowledge of there is a boundary that we should not cross. And if I cross this boundary, it is not only detrimental to me, I will be hurting the others too. If that means my life may not be so materialistically advanced, but I am still okay with it. Are you able to follow? When the sensitivity comes to that height, they say, okay, even if my life is not so materialistically advanced, I am still okay with it. Therefore, what they did in the past, they drew the boundary and they didn't cross that boundary. The intelligence was there, the expertise was there, but they didn't translate it into action. Today, what is happening is, because of that boundary being erased, we get into encroaching. What is the word when you cross the boundary? When you cross the boundary and suffer the consequences of it. Now we are working backwards. You are suffering the consequences of it because you have transgressed that boundary. What is that boundary? Is what we call as dharma. The rules and regulations, like a one-way traffic. You need to reach, but this road is one way. You can't drive. But it is such a circular route. 6 kilometers I have to go around. Whether you like it or not, you need to take that. You need to take that 6 kilometer circular route only because this is one way. Are you able to follow? This is how this knowledge, the ideal, subtler and subtler the ideals, it brings about a discipline to our, it brings a discipline to the science itself. See, the science itself must have a discipline. Science cannot take the stance that I will cross all boundaries. Vedanta comes and says science is useful as long as that also sticks to a boundary. And that boundary is what we call as dharma. Sriya, Sriram. Did I answer you in some way? So it is okay as long as it is done within the boundary. What is the boundary? The boundary is, for my happiness, I will not use the other. Why that is called dharma is because how irritated and suffocated I get when somebody is using me. When somebody is using me, I get so irritated and suffocated. It means I also shouldn't use the other. It means what? I respect the boundary. Respecting the boundary means driving according to the rules and regulations. And when ambulance comes, Madras la car otna kuda, when ambulance come, you have to go to a side and give way. This is how we can get over this. This is how we can get over this. Yeah?
One small question that I had.
Yeah.
Clear கேக்குறதா?
Yes.
Okay. So இதுல வந்து it seems like it may be my specious reasoning, but
Yes.
it seems like okay, but I am working, the specious reasoning says you are working for the greater motive of curing, say, a disease or a situation for a human. And as a result, as a collateral, sometimes to test your device or your drug, some other species unfortunately has to bear the pain. But the specious reasoning says that the greater good is achieved in one sense.
Correct.
So அதுவே அந்த thought process தப்புன்னு நீங்க சொல்ற இல்லையா? So the
Yes.
basis.
Yes, correct. Yes, the basis of this reasoning itself is wrong. Because the human arrogation has taken over here. One species ego and arrogance have taken over, and it is reasoning like this.
அப்ப அந்த காலத்துல how did they find cures? So what was their methodology? Because they were also great.
Yes. Exactly correct. What they did, the methodology that they did in the past was, even if they want to cure a disease, first thing they made you to accept that disease is an inevitable aspect of life. It is managing it, not curing it. One. Second is, for that cure, they brought in two aspects to cure. One is the physical cure, another is the mental cure. The physical cure they didn't bother about a lot. The mental cure they worked on a lot. The physical cure as in the advanced medical sciences of today. The mental cure as in the karmic cure, the law of karma and all that. So what they did is, as long as body is there, அதுக்கு ஒரு அன்னமய கோஷான்னு ஒரு பேரு கொடுத்துட்டு, it will survive by food and it will go back as food to something else. So why give such an exaggerated, extraordinary value to this body? But still there is a disease and the disease has to be cured. For this disease that has to be cured, there are two parts to it, the physical part and the mental part. Physical part, they are restricted to minimum. They say endure the physical part a lot is the cure they gave. Mental part is what they went into the, mental part is where they went into the law of karma, the cause and effect and all that. So they adopted that cure a lot, and the physical cure wherever, that's where you find the rudimentary medical, the rudimentary of mathematics in Vedas, the rudimentary of sciences in Vedas, all will be there only in the rudimentary form. They didn't act upon it further. They didn't take it up any further. Why they didn't take it up any further is because when you cross a point, that point would be of, the justification of the species justification overpowering and using the other species. You used the very right word, the species reasoning, correct? That species reasoning is what we call as ego, arrogance, ignorance. Why we call it as ignorance is because two things. They are helpless and we are exploiting their helplessness. The other species are not having a choice. They are not willingly coming and they are not walking into the guillotine willingly. They are helpless. And that helplessness is what I am exploiting. That is why I straight away said intelligence exploits. Think in this angle.
And the final bit, and on the relative ideal being tangential versus the absolute, though it seems grand, kind of intangible. How do we get over that dilemma? Say even if I fix that.
Yes. Now, even when you fix the highest ideal, you need to break it up into smaller ideals only. When you are breaking it up into parts, you don't take a particular part as the whole. This is where tarka comes in. This is where logic comes in. I have a grand goal, and that necessarily has to be broken into parts only to get there. When I break it up into parts, I don't take any single part as the ultimate. I connect all the parts to that grand total. So when I'm breaking it up into parts, I don't lose sight of that grand, I don't lose sight of the absolute total. Because in terms of action, it has to be broken up only. It has to be broken up into parts. But breaking up into parts should not make me lose sight of the total. That's how we can do. Seriya?
Thank you.
Seriya?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. There are a couple more clarifications which I will take up in the next session. Couple more is there which I will take up in the next session, and then we will continue to discuss the receipt, reaction, response as in starting from yajna number 3. With this, conclude for today.